Hello, my name is Jeff Yasteen, and today I have an urgent announcement. The medical marijuana industry, once a small, controversial enterprise, is now on the verge of surging 4,067% as legalization in all 50 states is potentially days away. President Trump already declared, "I'm in favor of medical marijuana 100%. John Boehner, who once stated he was unalterably opposed to legalization, now says, "My thinking on cannabis has evolved," and even sits on an advisory board of a major marijuana company. And perhaps most importantly, Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General of the United States, who was once unyielding to the thought of legalization, recently admitted there may well be some benefit from medical marijuana. 30 states have already legalized medical marijuana, and a large block of the remaining states will be voting on it in the next few months. And since a new poll reveals that 93% of Americans are in favor of legalization, it's not a matter of if medical marijuana will be approved in all 50 states, it's a matter of when. For investors who act now, before it is legal in every state, the profit potential could be life-changing. For example, in 2014, when Maryland, Missouri, New York, and 13 other states legalized medical marijuana, Supreme Cannabis shot up as high as 3,429%. The next year, when 8 states, including Virginia and Texas, made medical marijuana more accessible to the public, Aphria took off, surging upward of 2,628%. And soon after California, Nevada, Massachusetts, and Maine legalized marijuana in 2016, Axum Biotechnologies surged to a peak of 3,413%. Now, with these gains alone, investors had the chance to turn every $1,000 into a $95,000 windfall. And those were simply triggered from state laws. Imagine how much bigger the profits will be when medical marijuana becomes legal for the entire country. It's why U.S. News says you will not find another multi-billion-dollar market growing at this type of rate anywhere in the world. Why Forbes calls marijuana the best ground floor opportunity we've seen since the early days of the internet, and why the Chicago Tribune describes marijuana as the fastest growing industry in the world. With potential legalization around the corner for the entire country, experts predict the medical marijuana sector will surge from a small $11.4 billion niche into a massive $475 billion industry. That's a 4,067% growth. If you want to ride this wave, if you want your chance at life-changing profits, the kind of profits that could make you a millionaire in the blink of an eye, you will want to invest by the end of the month for the biggest, fastest gain. But with over 227 marijuana stocks, most people don't know which companies to invest in, which is why today, in this exclusive interview, I'm excited to be speaking with Matt Battiali. Matt's a highly respected investment expert who's been featured on Fox Business, CNBC, and the Wall Street Journal, sharing his recommendations on everything from energy, agriculture, even marijuana. People have paid over a combined $15 million each year for his investment insight. Today, for the first time ever on this very stage, Matt will show us why the gains in medical marijuana will be so much larger than anyone expects. He will even reveal the blueprint he will use to capture these massive gains, a blueprint Matt already used to win an in-house investment competition, reaping cumulative gains of 2,672%, as well as bagging a 4,400% profit on his own portfolio. Let me be clear, this blueprint is known by very few. He's kept it a secret, understandably. But today, Matt's going to reveal this blueprint to you for the first time ever on this very stage. Best of all, Matt's also going to show you how he's using it to pinpoint the #1 medical marijuana stock. A stock you can scoop up right now for less than $50 so you can capture massive gains as this market surges 4,067%. And with that said, Matt, welcome.
Thank you, Jeff. It's a pleasure to be part of this event. The timing is perfect.
I agree. And all my research points to one conclusion. Medical marijuana is starting to be legalized across all 50 states in record time. And anyone who invests before the end of the month could turn tens of thousands into hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars.
You know, I've spent the last several years studying this sector, narrowing down the best investment plays in the industry. And as you mentioned, gains of 1,000%, 2,000%, even 3,000% have already been made. But Jeff, this is just the beginning. The medical marijuana industry is on the cusp of surging 4,000%. If people invest in the right companies, their gains could be even higher.
Well, coming from anyone else, Matt, I would be highly skeptical, but your track record of identifying winning stocks demands our attention. And I don't say that lightly. I've met and worked with the likes of Warren Buffett, Steve Forbes, but few experts can come close to what you've accomplished. I mean, you've traveled the world seeking out top investments, visiting places like Iraq, Singapore, Turkey, Zurich, the Yukon, Peru, Mexico, Hong Kong, Papua New Guinea, to name a few. I mean, you've even been a sought-out speaker at global investment symposiums and asked to present your findings to billion-dollar behemoths like ExxonMobil. And your investment approach has paid off with outstanding results. In fact, you outperformed your colleagues, including a former hedge fund manager, as well as a Goldman Sachs trader, with 16 triple-digit winners as high as 269%, 335%, and even 343%, some in as little as 10 months' time. You made total gains, 2,672%, all during a volatile market. Now, $1,000 in each of these stocks would have made anyone $332,900. So to no one's surprise, you won the competition. In addition to that, you made a huge 4,400% win in your own portfolio. It's no wonder people pay you a total of $15 million each year for your investment research and insight.
As great as all those gains are, Jeff, the potential in front of us is even bigger. You must invest before the end of this month for your chance to capture the biggest gains. I can't stress that enough.
Well, I have no reason to doubt you there, Matt, especially when you consider that people who pay for your insights have already begun making money in marijuana stock.
It's incredible. Let me show you a few examples. Tony Florence from Boise, Idaho, wrote in to say that he made an impressive gain of 1,389%. Judith Masters of Yorktown, Pennsylvania, made 10 times her money. And Greg Walsh in Seattle, Washington, tells me he's up 500%. And the list goes on and on.
Well, again, Matt, it all comes back to the secret blueprint, which you are going to share with us today for the first time ever on a stage like this. In fact, you are going to use it to pinpoint the exact stock our viewers should buy so that they can profit from this 4,067% growth. But first, let's talk about what's happening in the medical marijuana market. Why is now the perfect time to invest?
Well, the push to legalize medical marijuana is storming across our country. You already mentioned the key points. 93% of Americans want it legalized. Politicians from both sides of the aisle, including President Trump and John Boehner, are in favor of it. Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General, even admits medical marijuana has its uses. So you're right, it's not a matter of if medical marijuana will become legal in all 50 states, it's when. That's why everyone needs to know how to profit from this coming wave of legalization.
I've heard you compare the legalization of marijuana to the repeal of prohibition in 1933.
That's a great comparison. You had an industry that went from nothing but a couple of bootleggers on the black market to a $475 billion industry. Every $1,000 invested in alcohol companies back then would now be worth $26 million. And anyone who saw the writing on the wall and jumped on the opportunity made an absolute fortune. It's why the Bush family is now worth over $13 billion, and why the Coors family is now worth over $4 billion. And it's why the Yuengling family is now worth $1.5 billion.
But of course, that was over a period of 85 years.
And that's what's really exciting, Jeff. Medical marijuana, just the medical, not recreational, is currently an $11.4 billion global niche. But experts predict it will explode to $475 billion.
So that's a growth of 4,067%.
Exactly. And the long-term growth potential is far greater than alcohol. There's a very important thing to remember. There's no medical alcohol. Doctors don't prescribe alcohol to help treat cancer or Alzheimer's or epilepsy.
But they prescribe marijuana to treat such diseases, right?
They do, yeah.
Well, I think this brings up another important point. When I used to think of the legalization of marijuana, I immediately thought of, teenage kids smoking pot at a party or in their parents' basement. But you're not talking about recreational marijuana. You're mainly talking about medical marijuana, right?
Correct. And this is where the big opportunity is today. For example, this is one common form of marijuana. It's called CBD oil. A lot of people might not realize this, but the oil inside this bottle it's a marijuana extract, and it's making waves across the country. It's treating diseases to a point no one could ever have expected. The National Cancer Institute states that some marijuana extracts can kill. That's right, completely destroy cancer cells while protecting normal cells. The National Institutes of Health discovered that marijuana can help reduce the risk of stroke, something 790,000 Americans are blindsided by every year. Another National Institute of Health study found that marijuana can treat both the symptoms and the progression of Alzheimer's disease, which 5.7 million Americans suffer from. The FDA will vote for the approval of a marijuana drug that treats a rare form of epilepsy in children. Jeff, I could go on and on.
Well, the more, Matt, that I find out about the healing powers of medical marijuana, I start to think that 4,067% growth is an understatement.
Once legalization is passed in all 50 states, fortunes will be made. Again, the industry is currently an $11.4 billion industry, but experts expect that it will hit $475 billion by 2025. So we're just 1/40th of the way through this market rally.
Well, it's incredible when you phrase it that way. Look at the gains that have already been made during the first stage. In 2014, when 16 states legalized forms of marijuana, supreme cannabis shot up as high as 3,429%. The next year, when 8 states made marijuana more accessible to the public, Aphria took off, surging 2,628%. And soon after, California, Nevada, Massachusetts, and Maine, right time, would have resulted in a total profit of nearly $500,000.
Now, of course, nothing in the market is guaranteed, but the potential in this sector is clear. And the thing is, people have made much more. They've made millions. I already gave you a few examples from my readers. Here are a few more I've heard of. Rachel Kent, a 46-year-old former paralegal from Baltimore, Maryland, was able to claim a $2 million windfall. And Frank Richards, a 25-year-old from Riverside, California, collected $1.5 million in 3 months. Chris Schaefer, a 60-year-old from Seattle, Washington, pocketed $3 million in 20 months. But my favorite is Helen Palmer from Boulder, Colorado. This 59-year-old mother of 2 made a staggering $8.4 million from the marijuana industry.
Wow. Well, what's incredible is that these gains were made while medical marijuana was still an $11.4 billion industry. Now that it's expected to surge into $475 billion, like you said, we are still just 1/40th of the way on this journey. As this industry surges more than 4,000%, well, the profits could be enormous. But Matt, with 227 marijuana stocks on the market today, how does one know where to invest? It seems like a roll of the dice.
For most people, it's tough. There's no doubt about it. But I have an edge.
Your blueprint.
Yeah, my blueprint allows me to narrow down the absolute best opportunities in this booming sector. In fact, it's pinpointed one specific stock I'd like to tell our viewers more about today.
Now, Matt, you've never shared your blueprint before on a stage like this. This is a pretty big deal. After all, it has been your secret to amassing a small fortune.
It is, and once I explain it, you'll realize it's not rocket science. It goes against what most of the so-called experts on Wall Street preach. They want you to think that you need an Ivy League education or a lot of money to make a fortune in the markets, and that's simply not true.
That's encouraging. So anyone can use this blueprint to make gains?
Absolutely. Let me explain more. Take a look. I call it the 10X blueprint. I call it that because, as you might suspect, it helps me find stocks on the verge of soaring 1,000% or more. And as you can see, there are 4 phases. First, there's the hype phase, when a company has its initial surge. You see the stock covered in the Wall Street Journal, on CNBC, and on Bloomberg.
This is when investors buy into the story without any substance.
That's right. And you can make money here, but it's risky. You better get out quickly because right behind it is the facing reality phase. And this is when the company hits a few snags, the stock price struggles, and that causes investors to sell. Now, most companies, and let me be clear, most companies never recover once the panic has set in. I'll talk about that more in a bit. However, the stock finds a bottom, and the companies that make it will thrive. This